have returned. After an eternity away from you all,
Inked blessing.
is back.
Hey guys, just a little preamble before we get into this. I'm glad to be back, and for anyone who had to put up with me last weekend, I deeply apologize. I took a week to detox, and in doing so, I'm completely out of touch with what the guy's been doing. From what the other detractors have told me, it was pretty uneventful last week, in which case, instead of trying to watch everything back, get caught up, and edit it all in 2 days, I decided I just want to dissect the rant that I posted up last week so I could take that clip down. The upload schedule is just going to get worse during the summer. I've got some big trips coming up, and I'm going to attempt to touch as much grass as possible. But once it gets cold again, don't worry, I'll be back to doing the thing, and hopefully better, with some time to research and learn editing tricks, and if all things go according to plan, hopefully a better location to record in. Anyway, that's more than enough about me. Let's talk about what we're all here to talk about.
Some very interesting insight into the world of my detractors. All of this and more on today's show.
Let's get this out of the way real quick for those in the back that might still have an impression that DSP has a handle on his detractors at all. Simple point of contention is that he calls us all losers who sit in our parents' basement trying to find ways to fuck with him and his business. Says we have no real experience and so on. That says it all in itself if you listen to any detractor out there making content. I personally talk about myself too much when I cover DSP because I try to apply a lived experience to what he's saying. I know many detractors do similar things without bringing themselves personally into it. He also believes that detractors are a unified shadow cabal hell-bent on ruining his life. We are the corner demons, we are the Chikang sandwich, we are the Argentinians, and that we have created this husk of a man before you, when that isn't even the truth relatively. So when it comes to the world of detractors, I don't think anyone truly has a grasp on how it works, because it works in so many different fields by so many different people. It's incomprehensible, really. So the focal point of this world is not going to be able to understand it. You know, that whole thing, too close to the sun to see the stars and all that?
They said, could you just at least maybe give us some ideas of maybe some of the ways that if you had done that Mike Klum documentary, excuse me, the way that maybe it would have gone or it would have been a little different from all the other documentaries about you. And in a nutshell, I'll just summarize. I said, basically, this documentary was going to show all the hate towards me. In fact, it was going to interview some of the people, the top people who don't like me, right? And they were going to get a chance to speak in the documentary about why it is that they don't like me. But then what it was going to do was show my responses to that, to show how I feel about it, or maybe even clap back a little bit. And then what it was going to do was kind of analyze why so many people hate me. Like, what created this hatred? Is it legit? Does it even make sense? Because let's be honest, with the level of hate that I get, the amount of people who stalk my every move, who make so many videos and hateful things about me every day, from a little rinky-dink streamer that I am, a small guy, right?
I will never understand this concept that seems to reside with the older generation, that the bigger number, the more reliable the source. Getting the reasons why your biggest detractors dislike you wouldn't do anything for you or Klum, because their reasoning as to their distaste for you is not indicative of the feeling of detractors as a whole. You have been on the internet for 16 years, being an insufferable prick, and people have acquired a litany, a dossier of hate you might say, of reasons to dislike you. And why would you even attempt to clap back? You know what happens every time you do. You make the situation worse. The debunk stream, the copyright strike crusade, the daily rants about trolls. None of this helps your position even remotely. In fact, the only thing it does is keep you at your current status quo, because the trolls are the only thing keeping your dying channel afloat right now. We leave, the Dents who donate to stick it to the trolls leave. We leave, the LARPers that make up 90% of your chat leaves. And you're just left by yourself, like you always wanted. Alone in your gated community triplex with a wife that doesn't like you and Agent Declawed.
Why do I get that level of attention? Right? And we talked about it. It's like, even if everything anyone ever said about me was true, if you believe that back in the day I was a racist and a sexist and an awful person, well, you can't actually hold that to me now because that's not my content anymore. But I guess you could still hate me for something I did over a decade ago. Correct? Like, I think that's what some people would say, is that it's a lot of people.
So what if I made various racist remarks throughout the years, and continue to get caught bordering on making them again, or making subtle racist remarks while continuing to protect a known racist in my chat, and try and enable said racist to ban evade? So what if I committed bankruptcy fraud and lied under oath? So what if I groomed my ex-girlfriend when she was underage? So what if I declawed my cat? So what if I made fun of one of my former mods for being SA'd as a kid? So what if I doxed my fans? So what if I've lied over the years feigning distress over going to jail for not paying my back taxes, or losing my house, just so I could gamble on JPEGs of sweaty men in a mobile game? So what? Who cares? Is it really that bad? This is you right now. This is you. This is what you're doing.
Would say that, right? Now, also, for example, a lot of people with the current day stuff, my bankruptcy, e-begging too much, the mobile game controversy, and all that nonsense. Even if all of it was true, which again, it's not, and I urge you to understand that the vast majority of crap on the internet that's said about me is not true. Even if all of that crap was true, why is it that so many people hate me? Because it's relatively tame shit.
In the world of Lolcows, that is a fair assessment. Other than the more egregious allegations like the previously mentioned treatment of a mod whom we shall not name, the grooming of Panda, and the possible declawing of his cat, the e-begging, shit-talking, racism even, are pretty tame by comparative standards. The problem lies in the fact that there's over a decade of layers of this scummy behavior. This is the equivalent of saying, if I stole $1 every day for 16 years, who cares, because it was just $1, while not considering that over that time you've stolen $5,840 from someone. And this is being generous to the guy, because we're not even going to get into the psychological manipulation tactics he uses on his fans, the isolation he seemingly forced Panda and Cat into, and all the other bullshit he likes to pull.
You know, this is not allegations of sexual abuse or grooming. This is not like murder. This is not, you know what I mean? With the level of hatred that I get on the internet, you would think that I've done these awful, egregious things to warrant it. But in reality, it's just a series of kind of silly, small things over time that accumulated up and up and up and up, to the point where now the running joke is to always say that I'm a bad person who made bad decisions and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, but can you really justify any of that? Or is it that it's just the meme to not like me anymore, right?
These are not all just silly Phil rages at fighting games things that he's talking about here. And it's in no way a meme to be called a bad person. Your character, especially as a public figure, is all that you have. Being told you're a bad person should not be a meme to you. It's something you should take very seriously on a personal level, because that's where you have to start evaluating why you're being portrayed that way, or people consider you in that light. When I was taking writing classes, one of the first things you learn is that to write a good villain, you have to learn to write a good protagonist, because no one wants to be the villain of their own story. And this is Phil's whole mindset. Is him against the world, and those calling him the bad guy are the bad guys, because he has written himself as the protagonist of his own story, but refuses to take the hero's journey to actually make himself the person he sees in his head.
So that was going to be one of the things that we were going to explore in this documentary to some extent, because keep in mind, it was only going to be about an hour long, and topics were going to move fast. So nothing was ever going to be particularly analyzed for more than just a couple of minutes. And there was actually be some really funny parts and some interesting parts in there, things that people had never heard before. You know, we're going to try to get some people possibly from my past to be a part of it, right? If we could. Some stuff you guys have literally never seen before anywhere on the internet, you know? Because here's the thing. When someone is making a documentary about me, but it's not a documentary, it's literally just, oh, I went through all the detractor shit for 10 years and here it is all in a row. That's not a documentary. Literally, that's not a documentary at all. You didn't even cover it factually. You just regurgitated what detractor said for 10 years. You're a drama queen then. And everyone's been there, done that, right? We wanted to take it from a completely different angle than that. Yes, we wanted to absolutely acknowledge all of that and show it all exists and here it all is. Here's the people saying it to the camera. But then finally giving me a chance to, in one place focused, respond to that stuff and then show you what my life is really like. That it's nothing like what these people say or portray me as.
The reason all documentaries use the information the detractors have compiled over the years is because that's the only straightforward information there is. The guy will tell you to go back through his mess of uploads and find what he said on the topic, but you'll never find anything, because just look at the disaster that DSP Space Gaming is. Detractors made a whole search engine so we could go and find his actual words and the context surrounding them, and even that struggles to keep up with his spammy uploads. Big ups to pigpiggo.re, no shade, you're the hero we don't deserve. Phil constantly talks out both sides of his mouth. fence sits and is incessantly forgetting things he said on a regular basis. He is the most unreliable narrator possible, which is incredible when he's supposed to be narrating his own story. So is a documentary about Phil based on what the Farms has compiled and what people like Tevin have seen over the years? Absolutely, because it's the closest thing you'll get to an honest report on the guy with receipts.
You know, a typical stream, a typical day in my life, how different it is. Here's people from my past who know me, who say, yeah, I don't know what the hell these people are talking about, right? That's what it was going to be, all right? But that wasn't all of it either. You know, again, I'm not giving away every single thing about this documentary because we had other ideas too. And the thing is, it was still in developmental stages, right? Like, this is something that we were working on. It was in development. And I know that it wouldn't have worked because, number one, too much negativity on the internet. Again, these people obsessed with me would have just turned it into their own bullshit party anyway. And number two, scheduling, there was no way I was ever going to make that fucking work at all. And now number three, and this happens in retrospect, which I didn't know at the time, you know, Mike was already working on other documentaries, and one of these documentaries he's working on is EDP, one of the most reviled people on this planet, because he was basically caught red-handed being accused of pedophilia. Okay? So because of that, can you imagine? Big documentary number one, Boogie. Big documentary number two, EDP. The next one, Dark Side Phil. No thanks. I don't want to be associated with that shit. I mean, the whole point was that my documentary was going to be very different than Boogie's. But do you really think I want to be the next in line of that string of documentaries? No, I do not. So in retrospect, I think I made the right choice. Okay? I'm not saying that I would never do a documentary. I'm saying that right now it makes no sense. My story continues and is not even ready to be done yet. I feel like my documentary, if I ever do one, should be done further down the line, right? Maybe when it's time to say we're hanging it up or I'm near the end of my life cycle of doing content, then you make that kind of a documentary. I don't think we're going to do it now. I honestly don't think it would benefit me. I don't think it's going to bring any newcomers to my content at all. Sadly, I think it would be more for everybody else out there. I don't think it's going to help anyone. And as you guys know, you guys outright told me, right? Outright, that this was not going to work. That if I did this, that basically it was going to backfire and hurt everyone, especially after everything last year with the interview and everything. And I listened to you, and I think that was the right feedback. Okay. But anyway, we were talking about this as I was playing Alone in the Dark the other night.
I don't think Phil understands the idea of burnt bridges, because after wasting as much of Clum's time as he admitted to, and pulling out after Clum had already begun investing into the doc, I don't know anyone else in their right mind who would be willing to take that risk, especially given DSP's propensity to pull out of any collaboration he's supposed to take part in. Even more telling now that he's telling his audience that their feedback was part of why he pulled out, when we've seen firsthand how he tried to keep this whole thing under wraps and not tell them about it. Probably because he knew it would go back on exactly what he told them after the Side-Scrollers interview. He doesn't give a shit about their opinion or how they feel, so let's get that out of the way right now. He pulled out simply because Clum was digging too deep. He didn't have enough control, and some of those skeletons in his closet were ready to fall out. Maybe when he's 70 and still pumping out the same slop to the same people, someone will give it a chance. But until he does something particularly fucked up, I don't think that's going to be the case.
Someone left a comment on the video. It's an insanely lengthy comment, and I would just like to read this verbatim. Right? I'm just going to read the comment verbatim. And I'm very curious to hear everyone's thoughts on it. So here's the comment left on my Alone in the Dark video where we were talking about this. Okay? Here it is. The majority of the detractors don't hate you for any real reason. They just monetize their videos. Duty made videos about Wings of Redemption before he ever came to you. And he was bullied out by the other Wings detractors. So he stopped and started making them about you. It's literally just for money for most of these big ones, and YouTube stopped them. If YouTube had stopped them from monetizing this crap, they would go do something else. The majority of the videos are your new content from today, with clips from years and years ago spliced in everywhere to try to create a false narrative. They don't care about anything at this point but making money, and they will fabricate stuff just to keep their money rolling in.
He loves using Duty as an example, because Duty uses the same methods that DSP does to bully their way into the algorithm by mass uploading. I'm not sure what this guy is trying to say to DSP, but it sounds intentionally misleading. I've watched way too many hours of detractor content, and the videos this commenter seems to be talking about are things like Snort Brunel's work, where it's modern day Phil doing something stupid, and then they'll splice in a stupid Burnell moment from years ago that has either become an established meme in the detractor community or is otherwise topical to what DSP is doing currently. That's what's going to happen when you and your content are the personification of a broken record. I know I've brought up patterns of behavior before in my videos, and that's because his entire life is a pattern of behavior, repeating the same shit over and over again. Dude is constantly living a Groundhog's Day because he doesn't know how to do anything different.
Let's continue. The original detractors were actually just a bunch of crazy and obsessed people who were fanboys of Kojima. You kept saying bad stuff about Hideo Kojima while playing Metal Gear Solid, and that made them get really mad. They're all long gone now and probably on heavy medication of some sort at this point. Again, this is a comment on my video. I'm not saying this. This is me reading a comment, okay? It's literally 90% money-based now. They just never really made a career out of it. It would have mostly died out if not for that. Duty and the other spam uploaders make thousands of dollars a month doing this kind of content. More than they ever would have done doing anything else because they're all untalented morons. They treat making content about you like some people upload clips of their family or of the movie Frozen. I don't get that. I guess what they're saying is like obsession. Like, I upload all the content about my family. Oh, I'm the biggest fan of Frozen. Well, I'm the biggest hater of Darkside Phil. Monetize that shit. I guess that's what he's trying to say. Okay? Let's continue.
I'm not going to be the guy to argue that monetization doesn't make content creation appealing, but it's definitely not for everyone. It's not really for me, but I like talking about the guy and I get to learn new skills like editing. But why are we here counting everyone else's bag for essentially doing the same thing Phil does? As far as the detractors being untalented goes, I know I don't have to tell you guys how asinine an assessment that is. The Chikang of the Rang this year was so stuffed full of talent that it blew me away. My friend Atlas is constantly learning new skills, improving his content, and generally showing me what a talented public speaker sounds like. WPIG is a phenomenally put together show with so much going on you could have swore it was a real radio show. Ludwig and all those guys who throw together This Is How You Don't plays and somehow make the guy's gameplay fun to watch are so damn talented with their editing skills, they could make watching paint dry fun. I'm so sick of hearing this shit, especially from people who just sit and watch this hack, and from this hack, who doesn't edit or put any effort into what he's doing or learn how to better utilize the tools of his trade.
Most of the detractors are far more racist and sexist and anything else than anything you ever did. It's not valid hate. Now, before I continue, I'm just going to say something right now. Those people who claim that they hate me because of things that I say and do, the things they say and do are far more vile. You have no idea. Like, no exaggeration, and this is me from my understanding, they call people who are fans of me or supporters of me dents. Okay? Do you know what that means? Do you know where that comes from? They're basically saying that when you were a child, someone dropped you on your head and you have a malformed skull because of it, a dented head, and you have, like, brain damage. This is a common term they use in their community. They're making fun of brain-damaged people, and, like, that's fine. That's totally acceptable. Oh, but if Phil says that someone's a mouth drooler because they mash playing a fighting game, that's not acceptable. Correct? But they have a literal term they use in every piece of their content, and that's acceptable, saying people have brain damage. What? No, it's not only hypocritical, it's worse than what I do.
Let's establish here that this is coming from a guy who has never talked to a detractor straight up, and he's just trying to establish his own headcanon here. Old lore time with Papa Inked. I was around during the LSB days with a small group of regards who like to touch the poo a little bit. Yeah, I know, I was dented. Still am, but that's not the point. The point is that during that time, the term wheelchair was still being used to refer to DSP's fans. And as I understand it, that term originated around one of his former dents, Rob on Wheels, but I wasn't there for its inception, so that's speculation on my part. But what I do know is that Phil's mod, Madara is God, decided to go live on Twitch one day, and a buddy of mine, Bad, came and told me what was happening. So I hopped over to the stream and Madara was talking about buying a new gaming laptop with his SSI check, to which one of us asked him what qualified him for SSI, and calling him out for disability fraud, to which he responded by showing us a dent located on the peak of his skull, saying that that is what had qualified him for SSI. And that was all she wrote. The wheelchairs had become the dent heads. It had nothing to do with general disability. It, much like the wheelchairs of old, are referring to his community specifically, and what makes his community what they are. I also want to point out that Madara as God is still part of DSP's community, and has probably told DSP about this behind closed doors. So, DSP understands the context. He most likely knows exactly what we're referring to.
Worse, but they're okay doing it is because they're making fun of me. Get it? It's not, it's insanely hypocritical. It's 100% fucked up the way that they do it. Yeah, that's true. Oh, this is absolutely true. Dax Magain or Dax again, I don't know how to say your name. They also say people are wheelchairs, meaning they're handicapped. Yes, because we all know that the only people who watch my content must be handicapped. That's why they do it, right? Like, what? And even if they were handicapped, who cares? That's insanely offensive and discriminatory. Who cares? I don't care who you are or where you are in your life. If you're handicapped or not, who cares? You can't watch someone on the internet and like their content? What are you talking about? Do you see how messed up this is? And that's their community. That's how they talk in their community. But that I'm worse somehow. How am I worse than that? That's 10 times worse than what I say.
So this is your standard LARPer he's replying to here. No membership with the Argentinians around is a pretty good sign, so I'll just point out that his name is meant to say, dox him again, probably in reference to PW Dubs when DSP doxed him. I don't know if Phil missed that, or if he's just too high on his own hog right now to notice he's being baited. The only point I have to make here is that there's tons of people that watch DSP Space Gaming without being handicapped, and enjoy it, but not the way Phil thinks they are. If you enjoy this slop, especially if you support it while being berated, insulted, devalued, and constantly derided, it is almost intrinsic that there is an issue, and you'd be better off spending your money getting that figured out rather than keeping this beggar afloat.
Anyway, let's continue. They just want to pretend that their hate is valid so that it sounds valid. You could make yourself into a perfect angel in every way. They would still hate you. They would not miss a beat because this is now their job. Okay? As for their viewers, they find it funny to consume this stuff, and they have turned it into a daily routine, and the comments are all about money and not being good at games. It's mostly people who are jealous that you make money being a streamer, and they can't. Most of the restreamers literally are just failed streamers. They can only get any attention or make any money if they upload your content. They try to make their own content sometimes, and they get single-digit views on it.
Very few make a job out of this. Listen to any detractor who streams, and they will often talk about their real-world jobs and the things that they do to keep a roof over their families' heads. Because we learned from Phil that content creation is not something you put all your faith in when it comes to something as vital as that. And what's wrong with viewers watching detractor content daily? We detractors appreciate their company, and I can only speak for myself, but I get a real fuzzy, feel-good dose of serotonin when someone comments on my videos. And if the comments are just about money and not being good at games, that's because you've been begging and being shit at games since the Stone Age. But I'll agree with Phil here that when we detractors try to branch out into doing gaming content, or mostly anything not Phil related, the numbers do plummet. And that's simply because that's not the audience we've cultivated. The detractor community wants to talk about Phil. And if we're not talking about Phil, they'll go somewhere else where they are. It's that simple. But calling them failed streamers is pretty funny when you see where Phil's arch nemesis Tevin is at now.
If you make yourself super clean and super boring, they're just gonna paste in clips from your past and magnify tiny things to push a narrative, because that's their job at this point, and that's what makes it work. Being super clean and boring is not going to stop them. It will just make your content boring for the people who like you and support it. This is why people say the meme words, because you said something 6 years or so ago, and that's something that's detractors still splice into their videos daily.
Why did you do this? Because it's fucking funny!
Phil.
It's called having a sense of humor!
The thing these guys hate is any possibility of this gravy train that they're on ending. So if they see you do anything that they think might actually improve your public perception, they're going to try to counter it. Okay? If they thought that a documentary would come out that would actually see you in a positive light, and it might change how some people see you on the internet and actually attack the creators of like the detractor stuff, well, they're going to try to get you not to do that and even give you money to try to convince you not to do it. These people are just protecting their careers at this point. They even copyright strike each other, and they have their own turf wars, and then they blame you for it because they try to get the competition out of the picture because of their money. They're just a bunch of parasites clawing at each other to try to take money from you. They're like hot dog sellers clamoring around a stadium. You have no idea. I'm continuing. This is all one comment. You have no idea how sad the detractor community actually is. You think it's legit and has some foundation to it. No, it's actually just really stupid. If you were a woman, none of this would have happened. It would have ended long ago because it's unacceptable in the current climate to do this to a woman. However, because you're a guy, YouTube allows this to happen. If it were some way that you could get in touch with YouTube and get them to actually look into, ban, and demonetize this as bullying content, which it all is, by the way. I know you'll choose to ignore it, but most of it is totally against YouTube's terms of service. It would all end. The hard part is making them do this because you are a man and there is no real PR hit for it. If they allowed this to happen to a woman, YouTube would look bad. But because I'm a guy, they allow it to happen and even promote it and let it be monetized. Okay?
Holy shit, Phil. You ate this bait hook, line, and sinker, and then came back for seconds, dude. Do gay ops behind the scenes between detractors go on? Absolutely. It's a mess with some people in the community, which is why I point out how little cohesion there is between detractors as a whole. But in all the years I've been around and all the gay ops I've witnessed, I've not seen a single one that was based on money, because the detractor community pretty much consumes all of the detractor content. If they know of us and we're out there, they'll watch us. We all share one massive audience in a way. The copyright strike saga was brought to DSP's doorstep because he's done it in the past. Having a reputation for shit behavior will always come back to bite you in the ass. He claims it was machinima, which I don't believe for a moment. He's shown us his strike history and so on, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He has been behind claims in the past. Did some rogue tractors strike other tractors? Yeah, that happened, and it was messy, but that's outside the norm. So Phil would be where I'd point my finger first too. And how the fuck did this become a culture war rant? God damn it, man. How did you devour the bait this hard? Would you think for fucking once before you open your mouth?
This is why this Mike Klum documentary upset them a lot. It had the potential to get what is going on noticed by the people at YouTube or maybe outside the current ecosystem, and your detractors definitely do not want that. That's the comment. So, here's the deal from my perspective. You know, a lot of this, when I hear this in a comment, is news to me, even though I casually know names, like I know Duty Streams, or the fuck he is. What a genius to name himself that, huh? I know they exist because I know you guys tell me about them, or I see them in related videos and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know anything about their personal past. I don't know anything about who they are, where they come from, any of that shit. I just don't know. I don't pay any attention to any of it. As you know, my philosophy has been ignore it. Just fucking move on with my life and my day. Just go forward and keep creating positive content. And I'm successful doing that, right? But when you analyze it like this, okay? First of all, this sounds like someone who has inside knowledge, does it not? This sounds like someone who's in the trenches of this. And perhaps this is actually someone who knows because they're a part of it. That's my guess. That would be, I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, but it certainly sounds to me like it's someone who is well versed in what's going on with that over there, okay? I find it funny that this is, apparently this guy Duty tried to be a detractor of Wings, but the Wings community already had so many detractors, they bullied him out. So he tried to bully Wings, and the bullies of Wings bullied out a potential new bully of Wings.
What this guy sounds like, Mr. Philip Burnell, who knows all socks, is a sock, a LARPer. You claim to have people come to you behind the scenes and tell you about all the sock accounts, all the LARPers, and blah blah blah, something something, you see right through them and so on. So yes, he has insight, because he baited your sorry ass with one of the most insane ramblings I've heard swept between the limited plaque-free space between the remains of your enamel in ages. So if you're in the know, then you went ahead and read this because you wanted to. because you were under the impression it'd make you look better or further entrench your victimhood. Or, if we follow Occam's razor, you're not nearly as smart as you think you are, and you just made yourself look like an ass at the whim of a detractor.
Oh my God. So then they moved on, right, to me. And because I guess I didn't have as organized of a detractor community as Wings, he's able to make his crap and gets popular doing it. Like, what on earth, right? You know, it's just like, that's just funny to me. And exactly, you can't make this stuff up. It's just such a fucking joke, you know? Now, here's the truth. If you watch any kind of this content, this bullying content, you are messed up. There is no one who is like a normal, right-minded person who would watch this shit. The problem is, there's ridiculous amounts of not normal people out there now. They're antisocial. They sit on the fucking internet, and this is what they do all day. They think it's legit time of their life. Their one life they have to live on Earth. They're going to die someday, but they don't have true self-consciousness. It's like a bunch of cows sitting in front of a computer, right?
I really hate that today the term bullying has become so watered down that even the pig roach can whip it out and claim it describes what we do here. If laughing at your gameplay, documenting your lies, and if analyzing and utilizing your own words to call out your disingenuous assertions is bullying, then I think bullying as a word holds no meaning anymore. And if it does, and that is your definition, what is it when you say the world would be better off without detractors? What is it when you tell your audience that they should wish we were Thanos snapped out of existence? Call us mouth droolers. Tell us that we're cows. You wanted to harp on hypocrisy, but then we ended up here. We all have one life to live, and here you are wasting yours by trying to tell others how they should live theirs. But the difference is that the people laughing at this stuff with others in the community are having fun. Everything is a time waster as we ride the train towards the brick wall of the end, and all we can do is enjoy the ride. And what the fuck is true self-consciousness? Do you mean sentience, you bumbling valedictorian?
So people say to hate, I must watch and consume and hate. And I'll even throw money at people who hate. Like, what? Listen, I was a hater in the Street Fighter community 25 years ago. Okay? I say the late 90s into the first half of the 2000s. I was a hater. At the same time that I was a hater in the Street Fighter community, I played Street Fighter competitively. I was actually a good player. I actually got to the point where I won tournaments. Like, I did something productive while I was also being kind of a troll. You understand? Like, I never wanted to be a crowd follower of hate. Being a crowd follower of anything, you are the lowest form of life on this planet. You have no intelligent thought for yourself. You're just following along, apparently, a bunch of losers.
To give credit where it's due, Phil's correct here. He didn't want to be a crowd follower of hate, whatever that is. He wanted to be the shepherd of hate, the cultivator of loathing, the hate monger. He is, was, and probably always will be the king of hate. He was part of Team Hate during his Street Fighter days, and I can't say that I think it was as productive as he thinks it was. He maxed out 13 credit cards and put himself in debt for damn near a quarter of his life. He never made a career out of it. He never accomplished anything with it outside of 4th place at EVO. And even if we look outside the personal gains something like that could have brought him, he lost more friends than he gained. He burned almost every bridge that he had started networking at the time. He left that time of his life with less than the nothing he went into it with. And I can't call that productive by any margin.
And the sad fact is, when you look at what they say about me, like Phil is an e-beggar, and he asks for support for his content from a bunch of people. Oh, these innocent, ignorant, gullible people who listen to him, and then they give him money, and then, oh, he's horrible, he takes advantage of people. Literally, that's exactly what my detractors do, times 10. They fabricate narratives that don't exist. They reference things from my past that don't apply. They create narratives that are fake, and then they get people to believe it, and then they accept your money. They take your money for falsehoods. They do it on purpose. It's the biggest scam possible. Dude, the side scrollers did it last year. They had an interview that was staged to be a legit interview. They used that as a grounds to then make tons of negative content about me, and they milked the shit out of my detractors. They literally, for months on end, had detractors coming to their streams throwing the money. And the people are so dumb that don't like me, they didn't fucking realize it. They went and gave them money for nothing. And then guess what? They moved on. They don't care about me. They never did. They only wanted to use that as a launching platform so people would watch their crap content. So now they can do politics and other nonsense. And it worked because people were so fucking dumb. They were able to be milked by the side scrollers. And this is literally what the whole other detractor community does. Anyone who restreams me, anyone who makes this negative content about me, that's exactly what they're doing. If you're a viewer of theirs and you like their stuff, they're using you. How do you not understand that? Right? To some extent, and I know how crazy this fucking sounds.
These ignorant innocents that some detractors say Phil is taking advantage of is because a large group of his fan base is mentally deficient. They've been doxxed in the past. Not that I support that, but I've seen them. And he's even called it out, and the information is out there. And the ones that aren't mentally deficient are social outcasts. If you look at their docs, I mean, just look at pictures of Jax Raxer. Listen to Kay Gellian's story about being fleeced at a hostess club in Japan that he posted on the King of Hate forums. The PDF file living out of his van that I've addressed in a few videos ago. Derek and his constant harassment of online sex workers. Phil does not cultivate a normal style audience. And those kinds of people can be easily manipulated and swayed, especially by calls for empathy, because they can empathize with someone that's helpless and unwanted, and he portrays himself that way. And that is just emotional manipulation at its worst. He's gonna sit here and count the detractor's bag, just like he did ages ago with Tevin, when he was restreaming him and he said that every dollar Tevin made should have been his. The thing I can say for every detractor I have watched at the very least is none of them feign distress. They don't beg you to pay off their house. They don't ask for money. People just give it openly. So it is not the equivalent in any way. And I think that's because, much like an unwanted father figure, we learned it from watching Phil. Learned what not to do. So we're not going to go over the side scrollers thing. It's been rehashed a lot these last few months. We all know how it went down. He's just going to see about him anyway.
You actually have to give a little bit of credit to the original detractor groups. As much as I think they were nutty, guys like the Sons of Kojima, they weren't out to benefit from what they were doing. They weren't monetizing their content. And a lot of them actually were out to say, we just want Phil to improve. We don't like that Phil does this stuff that we don't like. We want him to improve. We want to call him out, say your gameplay sucks. You shouldn't be making fun of the game devs. You should take responsibility when you fail in a game. These were things that were legitimate criticisms of me that they had. And those criticisms were taken to heart over time. And if you don't notice today, for the most part, I try to improve based on long-standing criticisms, a lot of which came out of those communities. Now, we all know the ultimate obsession over Kojima and them infighting led to them falling apart. And that's a whole other story. But that was actually legitimate. The stuff that's happening today, the continuation of this wave of memeable hate, monetizable hate, is not valid, nor is it in any realm of logic. It's there just for people to milk morons on the internet. Just like the side scrollers did last year, and now the side scrollers don't give two fucks about anyone who hates me. Well, it's the same thing. These people are only looking to make money where they can. If all of a sudden this content, this negative content about me was not monetizable, they would be gone in an instant. They would run out the door. Because that's all they're in for it for. That's it. And if you fall for that shit, you are literally a grade A gullible loser. You know, everything they say about me and my viewers, that's you. You fell for the trap. Me, I'm providing free entertainment and content to people who like it. If they then want to support it, they have the option to do so. You understand? But my content is real. My content's not fake. It's not made up. It's not taking things out of reference. It's not creating narratives that don't exist. That's literally what they do on a daily basis just for the money to keep rolling in because people are so fucking stupid. And this is just getting worse and worse. Seriously, like the internet itself is becoming ignorant. We don't care about the truth behind anything. We just want to jump on what's popular, right? What's the new meme today? What's the new thing to run with?
He's saying here that the SOK were just out to criticize his behavior. Let's set aside their gay ops so that their criticisms were valid. Today's detractors' criticism is invalid because apparently we make shit up. But as far as I've seen, we're saying the same exact thing that the SOK has been saying for the longest time. And given what he's covered so far, that's all we can see. But somehow our criticisms aren't valid? Then we're back to counting everyone else's bag. What's he doing here? Is he saying because detractors are now monetized, their criticisms can't be valid the same way someone promoting an OBS plugin can't be valid because they have a sponsor in their video promoting their plugin? And you're a gullible loser for believing otherwise, apparently. So what he's saying here is that the SOK had it right, because that Regard Fred, who everyone disliked on either side of the fence when it came to DSP, was right by trying to enforce an obligatory rule that detractors could not monetize because they would be invalidating anything they had to say about Phil. And this is exactly why Phil wants to suck off the SOK now, to invalidate everything anyone has to say about him if they make any kind of profit off of speaking their mind when it comes to his content.
I just saw, listen to this. There was a tweet made about a day ago on Twitter, and I didn't even know it existed. And then all of a sudden it showed up in my timeline as I was looking at Fallout stuff. Someone, I don't know who they are, they made a tweet and they were like, so Bethesda undid the lore of Fallout New Vegas for their new show, which, by the way, they didn't. It's obvious the person didn't even watch the fucking show. But he said, they undid the lore of Fallout New Vegas for their new show. Yeah, and this is an awful thing they did, but the show's ultra popular. So Bethesda is like the DSP of gaming because they just keep making the worst possible decisions, yet they continue to exist and be successful. Like, this is what this guy tweeted. And his tweet has over 10,000 retweets. Or was it likes? It was either retweets or likes. I'm not shitting you. That was the tweet. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, so this guy is so fucking stupid. He's actually this dumb that he thinks that me, someone who's been around for 16 years, has done nothing but make bad decisions. Now, where did he get that from? From my detractors, from the memes, from the bunk documentaries that come out and say things like 10 years of failure. That's where he gets that. And the internet believes that shit because they're dumb fucks. These people don't want to take 5 minutes to learn about reality. They just want to hear the meme, laugh at it, and roll with it. A common consciousness. We all get the meme, right? What's the truth of the meme? What's the funny part of the meme? I don't care. We just laugh. I acknowledge it. DSP is bad, so I laugh now. It's like Barney the dinosaur. That sounds like. I just did a Barney voice.
You did a Barney voice. Funny, I guess, but in no way devalues that tweet. That tweet, if we're to break it down to brass tacks, is saying that by the poster's perception that the show seemingly retcons established game lore, retconning real lore to them, which is what you do on a regular basis by trying to paint red flags in your past as a different shade of red. You are the king of retcons and you know this. This is why you're going into a spiral over this tweet. You claim to ignore the trolls and anything dissenting against you, but then you do this. This is why we constantly say there's no point in you muting the comments on your videos, because you have to approve them. You see every single one. No one cares if the world sees it, because you had to see it. You have to deal with it, and you have to face the reality of the words in that, because you know inside what a few, at the very least, of those comments are saying is true. What the world knows doesn't matter, because when you have to read line for line the things you said and done, the only conflict you're faced with is the one inside yourself.
And again, I never have ever said that I was free of faults. You know, I know there's the meme. I did nothing wrong. I did everything correct, right? It's a meme. It's a joke. I'm a flawed human. I make mistakes on a daily basis. I do. Big mistakes. And I try to own up to them when I see them happening now. I try to learn from them, but I'm not perfect. I'll continue to make mistakes for the rest of my life. All right? But it is absolutely true that the vast majority of people who don't like me today, like the person tweeting about me, don't know two diddly dicks about me. They don't watch my content. They don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. They're just perpetrating or propagating this negativity about me because it's what everyone just knows, when it's actually factually wrong. And it's truthful that these idiots who every day restream me or do these negative videos about me, creating the false narrative, it is bullying. 100%. It's bullying content. Okay? And it is considered either defamation or slander. I'm not sure which. Okay? It's definitely one of them. All right? And absolutely, I believe this person. Okay? Because right now, there are female content creators who have had the same kind of thing happening to them as happened to me. And when they spoke up, YouTube and or Twitch and or whatever platform took action. Okay? I firmly believe that it is because of this modern day
I did nothing wrong, I did everything correct, is his banner, his tagline, his mission statement, because that's all he knows. Watch a single Friday Night Fights or any gameplay stream. He takes no responsibility for when he dies or fails, as inconsequential as it is. If you cannot accept responsibility for something like that, something that does not matter, that no one should give a shit about, then no one should believe he is able to own up and accept responsibility for the things that do matter. I was told in my late teens, during a time where I made some terrible decisions and ended up rolling my first car 6 times, that the best thing you can do, even when it seems best to tuck your head, run, or lie, is to tell the truth. You may not get away scot-free, you may not get a chance to weasel your way out of trouble, but you will be respected for it. And respect is worth a lot, even when you're faced with true punishment, especially for your faults. And I never forgot that. I'm just glad, even by a marginal standard, I had someone in my life that was willing to teach me that lesson. Oh yeah, and how could we forget that he's not part of a protected class? Bring on the sexism, Philip. I love when you try to use wokeness as a shield when your wife isn't around.
very progressive movement in modern society that there are certain groups that are protected. I am not a protected group. I'm a white male. I'm the least protected group right now. Basically, I'm out here, got to just fend for myself. No one's going to stick up for me. No one's going to say, oh my God, look, there's thousands of fucking awful things being said about Phil, literally invented on a daily basis. Let's shut them down. No one cares. But if I were in one of these groups, then immediately they would take action, right? Because that's the thing. That's the thing in culture right now. You have to be one of these groups, right? And again, I'm not saying that I agree or disagree. What I'm saying, that's just my situation, right? Like right now, if I were to actually go and flag content and say bullying content, YouTube would not give a shit. They would ignore me. Yeah. But if I had a case, you know, that it was discrimination on the case of the gender, race, you know, sexual orientation, if I could say all that, then it would be shut down. But I can't do that because I'm a straight white male. I don't have a case to be in one of these groups that right now everyone feels needs to be protected. So these people can literally sit here on the internet every day bullying me, and I have no recourse besides a lawsuit. Do I think I'm going to be suing anyone with a lawsuit? No. You know what they say here? Again, my philosophy has been just ignore it and move on with my day. Why? Because I've learned in my life, you can't fight fire with fire. Right? You can't. You can't. When everyone attacks each other, everyone dies. Right? There's no winner there. You can't fight fire with fire. It's just not possible. All right? So I just say, I'm not going to fight it.
Phil, you make life so much harder on yourself than it needs to be. Straight white male doesn't even come into the equation here. As a cis white male myself, I can tell you that I get through my day-by-day life exactly the same way I always have. Does the vitriol exist? Certainly. But if you don't live terminally online, it's negligible at best. You being a protected class might get the corporations to try and protect your image some more. Sure. But that doesn't resolve the actual issue, which is you. Look at Keffels. They're one of the quote-unquote protected classes, but that doesn't make them a better person. It doesn't change who they are. Your gender, your sexuality, nor your genitalia define who you are as a person. You are Philip Paul Burnell, the renowned beggar, scumbag, fucknugget, egotistical, cockhead gamer in quotations behind DSP Space Gaming. And no matter what is betwixt your legs, we would be here, calling you out all the same. This whole rant you're going on just makes you look insensitive to those in those classes who are openly harassed just for being who they are and who they want to be with no chance of recourse. People who are not you.
What am I going to do? Sit here and be a litigious asshole on YouTube slapping fucking lawsuits against YouTube channels and shit that benefit from slandering me every day? No. Number one, it's too expensive. Number two, it's too time consuming. Number three, it's not worth it. It's like they say, it's like the Hydra. For every one head you cut off, 10 more come out. Unless YouTube actually becomes a fair place and says we're really going to enforce our rules instead of selectively enforcing it, because that's the problem. YouTube has terms of service, but they don't enforce them. They selectively enforce them in cases where it benefits them. So if it makes them look good because they have a protected class who's being harassed and they did the right thing, they'll do it. If it's someone like me who's been harassed for over a decade by literal slander and defamation on a daily basis, bullying, vile things, harassment of myself, my family members, my fans, my moderators, it's all documented and factually proven that it all happened, but YouTube doesn't give a fuck about me right now. And they never will. Unless they change their policy to adhere to everyone equally and actual enforcement across the board.
Luckily, this is a simple one to nip in the butt, as DSP would say. Since you don't understand it as bud, he claims to have receipts of all this documentation, but never presents it. And when he actually has the balls to try and put receipts on the table, they're non-conclusive. Like when he tried to prove the Comcast detractor. This man has no idea what conclusive evidence looks like, no matter how much he tries to represent his claims as factual and documented. We have never seen those receipts, i.e. the dossier of hate. They would have been all over the forums, all over the Discord, everywhere. Because what he will always refuse to understand about detractors is that what matters to a majority of us is the truth. And whether or not that truth shows us up is irrelevant, because documentation is king. And if we're wrong, we're wrong. I'll reference you back to Exhibit A1, where a detractor debunked the escort claims. To summarize, put your money where your mouth is, or choke on it.
It's just not right. I agree with this person 100%. This should be fair. If someone's going to get the right treatment, everyone gets the right treatment. If you have a bullying policy, fucking enforce the bullying policy now. Not 2 years, 10 years from now, not 3 more generations of content creators down the line. Actually enhance it. Do it now. Right? People who sit on their channels all day bullying people should immediately be shut down. And I'm not just talking about my detractors. I'm talking about big fucking YouTubers who do it. People who have entire shows based around drama and gossip and bullying should not exist on YouTube because they break the bullying terms of service.
Here is the bullying terms of service for YouTube, and from what I gather, is that insulting someone for race, sexuality, and gender seem to be the major points of contention covered here. Age is in there as well, but that's whatever, since we all just assume the decaying skin suit on the lizard driving the DSP Space Gaming gravy train is well into their thousands a year on Earth currently. None of this applies to anything DSP has been saying through this entire rant. So that just leaves the question, what in the actual fuck does he think the TOS actually is?
But they do. Why? What's the answer? Will anyone ever hold YouTube accountable? Or let's be honest, it's not just YouTube, it's everywhere. It's all the platforms that allow it. Facebook allows it, Twitch allows it. It shouldn't exist. It should all be gone. It should be wiped off of the fucking site if they actually have a terms of service against it, which they do. But they don't. They don't enforce it. So what are you going to do, right? Again, me, I'm just a guy. All I can do, and I appreciate the comment, and I'm glad that we talked about it a little bit today, and I'm sure this is going to stir up discussion about it, right? Like, wait a minute. Why is it that certain people seem to actually get the terms of service to stick up for them, and others, it's just ignored endlessly? I'm probably the textbook case of someone who's been harassed constantly for a decade, and YouTube does not care. They just allow all of it, and it's destroyed my business, destroyed my popularity, destroyed my reputation. And if you actually look at the content I make today, this is better content than I've ever made before.
Hold YouTube accountable for what? People more intelligent than you making content that dissects your statements and arguments that make you look a fool? Content that calls you out for your deranged behavior on their platform? We have never understood why you want enforcement, because the first person to be taken out is you. You're ground zero for all this content. So without you, everything is gone, and all these companies are not beholden to you, and owe you nothing, not even an explanation. As you've seen with Twitch, you don't want that, and we know it. So this is just grandstanding for the sake of grandstanding. And again, we've seen the TOS covers nothing that the majority of detractors do, so no matter what, if you got your way, we would still be here. You're the textbook case of why words don't matter anymore, why the English language has lost its value. Because you want all these grandiose words that I've spent my life learning so I can create them into art and use them to make my points and articulate myself as best I can, to coddle you and your increasingly abhorrent behavior. And please, tell me, what has happened to you outside of the quote-unquote swatting / wellness check that has happened to you that would qualify as harassment, you hydrocephalus suffering ignoramus?
In comparison, this is better content than a lot of other content creators out there, but they don't have a giant bullying community against them saying they suck. So they actually can get like traction on YouTube. They can get views. They don't get insane downvotes on every piece of content. They don't get people crapping on them constantly. They just get to enjoy having a vibrant community of people who like their content. I'm not allowed to do that, right? It's fucked up. So that's why I am where I am. And I always will be at this level, and that's why I've grown to accept it. Unless I'm going to go stoop to their level, right? Unless I stoop to the level of those that slander me every day, I will not be able to basically get out of where I am. So it's basically, do I become them? You know what they is? You know, do I become the villain just like them?
You remember when I mentioned my writing classes and the villains and protagonists? This is why I brought it up. Because this simple segment establishes that he has no understanding of the relationship between the two. And if I'm to be fair and relate to DSP, this is where we both get too deep in very shallow water. Because it's not that deep. I like to envision everything as a story, and the way he writes his story is the exact opposite way I would. But to digress from that point, he wants to say his content is a lot better than other content creators. He's leaving it general here, but we've all seen it live, and in clips, where he tries to represent himself as better than ancient content creators and his reacts, like the whitest kids you know, Donkey, and so on. We're holding him back, but somehow he still acknowledges the fact that he can't retain an audience after the pre-cum pisscast ends? Because no one cares about him outside of his insane ramblings anymore. Also, downvotes? I thought we liked downvotes, DSP, because, engagement? Whatever. But a vibrant community is something you build, my guy. I was lucky enough to have an opportunity to meet Iviga's and Atlas's communities. And they are vibrant, fun, diverse, and honestly, they're the thing that made me want to start making my own content. You do not create an audience like that by being a dislikable asshole, locking down your chat, and trying to force your viewers into a cult-like form. You squandered any chance of vibrancy in your community. You have no right to complain about what you've gotten because you drove your community to this point. You get what you created. You are the content creator. You have to take responsibility, but he won't, and we know that.
Or do I just say, fuck it, I just keep going on my merry way the way that I'm going? Honestly, I've really enjoyed going on my own merry way, right? I'd rather just do my own thing. I would. So let's just do that, right? I understand there's people here who, I mean, basically what I'm hearing from this person's comment, which again, I appreciate it, is, you know, in a perfect world, YouTube would care, and all this content that's out about you every day would be flagged for bullying, and YouTube would shut it down. But YouTube's never going to do that. I'm just gonna assure everyone that it's not going to happen. Again, if I were one of these considered now in the modern day protected groups, they would actually look into it. They're never going to look into it for me. I've already been the whipping boy of YouTube for 10 years. If they didn't do it in the last 10 years, why would they suddenly do it now? Right? I don't expect them to ever have my back. Ever. So I just move on, doing my own thing. And that's it. And that's what I wish most people would do. Because that's the sad fact is they don't. They actually entertain the trash content because they're stupid. They're ignorant.
Story time. When I was young, I went to downtown Portland with some of my friends to go to the bars. I started some shit with some guys at a small bar in downtown Oregon City on our way out there. And all three of those guys came at me. And when I was outside, I looked at my friends and hoped they would back me up. And they looked at me and said, "You started this. Why would we get involved?" In not such kind terms. And I got my ass beat. There are rules to having someone back you up. First, you have to be worthy of backing. Second, your reasoning has to be worthy of backing. And third, you have to be reliable. Because no one's gonna back you if they can't rely on you to back them up when they need you. If you fail those conditions, and even then, if you do, no one is under any obligation to back you, especially not a corporation. So he should get that idea out of his head right now. No one is obligated to back him because he fills none of that criteria. Did I feel my friends were stupid and ignorant for letting me get whipped? No. I understand what I did, and I learned from it. And these are life lessons DSP has never had to learn, nor reflect on. And that is why he has this feeling of being owed that.
Instead of taking 10 seconds to research, like how many times do we get people coming by and say, my God, I heard negative things about you from Review Tech. I heard negative things about you from this channel. And I actually came and checked out your channel, and then it was good. I had a good time with it. It was fun. We had a good chill time. We enjoyed the game. We hung out. We had fun conversation. You didn't e-beg all stream. Yeah, you mentioned it a couple times, but you didn't e-beg the whole stream like they claim you do. Well, I don't get it. I don't either. But now we have our answer. It's because it's profitable to hate on YouTube. It is profitable to be a professional bully on YouTube. YouTube allows it and doesn't care unless you're in a protected class, which I'm not. So I have to put up with the daily abuse, and that's why I choose to ignore it. That's why I don't entertain it. That's why I don't watch it. That's why I don't respond to it. That's why I don't react to it. That's why I don't care.
You actual round block square hole style individual, you're addressing it and caring about it right now. I've said it once, I'll say it 100 times. Even if I'm pretending not to care about something, I will not address it. I will starve it out because that's something that works in most cases. What you're doing here, an hour and 5-minute rant, shows exactly how much you care, that you let it consume nearly half your entire pre-stream, which in this juncture, you would think is the only segment of your stream you actually give a shit about, given the way you defend it. You get these people coming in and saying this shit as socks, as LARPers, because they know slobbing your impotent knob is the easiest way to get into your good graces so that they can start stirring shit in your chat. I cannot believe how ignorant of the dynamic in his own stream chat he is. Holy fuck.
All right? So if you basically watch that content, I can't help you. I feel like this is something that you have to do. You have to do self-inflection for yourself. Why am I enjoying watching content that likely is fake, or at least only based on a nugget of truth, but completely over-exaggerated? And I just love making fun of this guy every day, right? How many people will make fun of me today because I'm wearing a bunny on my shirt, right? Which I love. I think this is cool. Look, I think this is an awesome shirt. Oh, 40-year-old man has midlife crisis. Wears bunnies on his shirt. You're a loser. And anyone who thinks that's valid content is also a loser, a life loser. Not just, oh, in the moment, you have a pattern of being a fucking loser. All you do is watch toxic shit on the internet. You're not wired right up here. You can't be a valid contributing part of society if you just sit around hating on people all day. Do something about it. Instead of just sitting on your lumpy fucking ass there, watching crap and toxicity all day long, unsubscribe from the toxic creators. And go do something positive with your life, because guess what? You're going to get far more enjoyment out of the positive things you're doing with your life than sitting there in your chair hating on people on the internet because you're fucking jealous of them. Because that's the truth. You're mad that I am still here after 16 years making content, having a good life, happily married, great time with my viewers. You can't take it. And that's why it's your jealousy that propels you to act this way. Fucking stop. Do something positive for yourself. Get a life.
Do I have to do this again? I'm so fucking tired of this. This is the same shit you'd hear in Xbox 360 Halo lobbies, or in CSGO lobbies, when you were thoroughly dunking on someone. You don't have a life. You live in your mother's basement. You sniff anime girl feet. Shit like this. If he wants to use extremes, I can too. It's sickening to see a grown man use these middle school level COD lobby defenses to defend his own character. He has yet to provide any evidence that anything said about him is fake. No one makes fun of him for the things on his clothes. We make fun of him for the reason he wears them. I.e., he was perfectly happy wearing 12-year-old gamer girl t-shirts up until LTG told him to work on his sexy, and then uses the fact that he got called out for something very specific to point out a bunny on his shirt and then equate it to a very specific speculation regarding the midlife crisis, which a few detractors are thinking he's undergoing, which explains an increase in rant rates like this. A life loser? Like someone who's holed up 6 days a week and does nothing but rant at screens and has half an hour to an hour long segment about running to the store and buying pet supplies after every day they have off? And he's right, you can't be a valid member of society if all you do is hate on people every day. This is true, which is why he isn't a contributing member of society. I'd make a remark about lumpy asses, but this dude hasn't been seen outside shorts and Zelda jams in nigh on half a year now. And to continue on to this statement about having a good life, the good life hinges on $600 according to DSP. His entire life is a balancing act, and there are people that are jealous of him, sure, for lounging around and gaming all day and be able to afford a triplex condo out of it, but the reality is that's no way to live. He wants to continue to propagate this narrative that nothing is stable and nothing is forever, when this is the same guy who says American companies don't hire full-time at all anymore, like it's still 2008. He's an idiot. No one should be jealous of him because his life is not enviable.
Because time's a wasting. I'm 42 years old and I'm realizing now every moment in my life is very important. I need to relish and cherish every moment because my moments are getting more precious and far few, right? Many of the people who hate me are in their 20s, right? Or even teens. That's why. You're just so immune to any of it, right? You're going to live forever. You're going to be fucking, bouncing off the walls, immune to bullets and fucking superhero powers. No, you're not. You're going to be my age one day. Hopefully you make it that long. And you're going to realize, oh shit, I wasted all my time in my youth just sitting there hating on people on the internet because I'm a fucking loser. These are years you could have been building relationships, doing things for yourself, getting a job, working, making money, getting a home, building a foundation for the rest of your life. Instead, you're sitting there throwing money at fucking people who are scum, who have failed doing that. They tried doing that in their lives and they failed at it. So now they just hate on people on the internet, right? Do you really think that these YouTubers who are just toxic drama people could do anything else? Why do you think they still do it? They couldn't ever spin it into something else. No one gives a shit about them besides the toxic shit they make.
Yes, your moments are far few, whatever that means. And if you're here watching this and have spent more than a few days and a week outside touching grass and talking to friends, maybe even strangers alike, you've lived more life than DSP has. You've experienced more of what the world has to offer than this actual goblin coated in a spray of beige skin ever has. If you've ever worked a job, you've already contributed more to the human experience than PP Bernelio has since he was in his mid-20s. The victory sip just tops what pisses me off about this, because you all have value. He clearly doesn't understand the adversity in developing that exists in the world today. Housing prices, the job market, the price of commodities, food, and so on. This is what you would call the typical boomer mindset. He cannot grasp the fact that even if you're restricted on the moves you're able to make in life currently, that those limitations don't actually limit the value of you as a person. You are valued by your knowledge, your lived experience, and what you can bring to the human condition. If you care, if you're there for people and friends and whoever. If you have friends, if you're a generally pleasant person to be around, then you've already accomplished more than Philip could dream of, and you matter. The sickening use of language may come off as whatever, since it's, common from the guy. But when it comes down to it, telling people that they're worthless, even a blanket statement, is egregious. Especially when you yourself are proving yourself to be in that same situation.
So, if you're someone who watches it, time to look at yourself and move on. Now is a good wake-up call. This comment is eye-opening. For me, I look at it, I'm like, if that's really the case, if what they're saying about this stuff is true, that's pathetic and sad. Because here's the truth. It doesn't matter what these people do. I'm still going to be happy. It really doesn't matter whatsoever, right? No matter what they say or do or they make up. I'm going to continue on my way here, making content that's meaningful to me and my audience. And it doesn't matter how much slander they say. If it was going to hurt me, it would have hurt me in the last decade. And yeah, I'm a rinky-dink small guy now, but I still have enough intelligent, positive people around me to understand that it's not true and that people can have fun and have a positive time here on the channel. If anything, it's hilarious because they say I'm such an awful person, yet then I also get criticized because I don't do things like sexual content in the games I play. I skip it. So I'm an awful person, vile, the lowest of the low, but I don't do any adult sexual content.
I'm looking at myself, Phil, and I see someone who doesn't go on an hour-plus long rant over some LARPer bait, and I think I'm okay with that. Sexual content was never your problem. It was the style of sexual content you put into your videos. I don't have it on hand, and I don't really intend to go digging for this one, but if you go into the restream Atlas did of his one throwback streams that Atlas covered, he made a joke about a dead kid having an object forced into his rectum. His sexual content went beyond what a normal person might joke about, even if they were really into dark humor. And I want to remind us that the stuff he's trying to portray here is always the negligible things, not the things that happen in his non-existent Discord, nor things like when he said Justine had to be gangbanged to get the position she got. Dude has no chill, and I don't think that's changed. I think it's just hidden underneath the veneer of bullshit.
So isn't that kind of contradictory? I don't do the stuff that you could say was over the top and bad in the past, but but again, nothing they say makes any sense. None of it. None of their narrative makes sense when you analyze it from an intelligent perspective. It never has. It's all based on a one little thing, extrapolated, exaggerated times million. And that's how they come with their narratives that make money, So anyway, I read the comment. I was like, wow, insightful. Obviously someone who probably has inside information, eye-opening. And, every once in a while, it's good to at least inflect on and talk about it a little bit. But at this point, it's like, for me, as you know, my philosophy is I'm not going to fight fire with fire. I'm not going to go start flagging videos. I'm not going to get a lawyer and start suing people. I'm just going to make my content every day and ignore it all. Again, it's funny because as I was saying this, the only one I brought up was Duty because he was referenced in the comment. As I'm looking at the chat, people are bringing up tons of others. And I'm like, I realize I don't know any of these people. Like, the people you're bringing up all this stuff. I'm like, I don't even know who any of these people are at all. I know nothing about it. Right? Like, I don't know. So whatever. I guess there's another generation. I feel like I've been around now 16 years. I've probably had 3 to 4 different generations of haters. Like, originally it was the DSP cult leader. Then it was Evil AJ. Then it was the Sons of Kojima and the This Is How You Don't Play movement. Then it was the Tevin restreamer, right? And now it's like these other YouTubers, Duty streams and all the other shit, right? It's just generation after generation of people with no talent and nothing to add to the planet, yet they're allowed to exist because other people are dumb and throw money at them.
Wow, blown away by a LARPer named Doxum again. You really are a high IQ style individual. I'd watch my mouth if I was Phil. These detractors now have nearly 2 decades of material to work with, and the work ethic to make it into something. Just to put a pin in what he said, I'll probably dig it up in a future video, but there was a stream of him on his laptop, and when he hit his search bar, his name came up in the previous searches. And you know what happens when you type in DSP space gaming, so he knows who these detractors are. This is just another smokescreen he loves to throw up, like he did with EDP and Subordinary Gamers. After having spoke to SOG, for fuck's sake, which is pretty funny, he knows about many of his haters. Don't forget, his dents love to come and cry to Father Pigroach every time they stumble upon a nugget of information from behind the scenes of our deeply hidden shadow cabal of haters. So, DSP, you're invited to the cabal. If you want to help us plan the next stage of your downfall, given the fact that you're the best one to make it happen, you'll be a guest of honor.
Hopefully one day people will wise up. Well, I can't make people wise up. So I'm just going to stay in my lane, and I'm just going to hang out with you guys every day, and that's that. I'm just going to say, move on if you can. If this is the first time you've heard something like this, please move on. I guarantee you, even if you hate me, just move on from hating on me and do something else with your life. You're going to have a better time. I can confirm 100%, and this is from experience. When I was a hater in the Street Fighter community, and I took all my time hating on West Coast players and the Cannon brothers who ran SRK and stuff like that, I was miserable. When I stopped being toxic in that community and I focused on being a good player and running tournaments and actually starting to get respect for what I was doing, I had a much better time. And in fact, the only reason I stopped is because I got my back injury. Like, I hurt my back so bad, I couldn't travel to play Street Fighter anymore. I was like, shit, it sucks, because if I had been a positive person much earlier in my run was the late 90s to around 2007-ish. If I had been more positive earlier, I probably would have had so many friendships and things. And instead, I got a bunch of rivalries under my belt, but a lot of toxic shit that I did too that I regret. And I know for a fact, June the King, when his documentary comes out about me, he apparently is going to go very deep into detail about my early days in Street Fighter and how toxic I was. I 1,000,000% fess up to all of that.
He's been fessing up to this for years, because we have old FJC guys in the community like Jaha, None of those guys have an inkling in their mind to defend the guy. Scott's dead, he uses corpse to grift. T's dead, he's still using that poor guy's body to grift from time to time. Rambo wants nothing to do with him, Howard wants nothing to do with him, and the other guys can't stand the guy, given what they've said about him over the years. So of course he will fess up to this, because it's objective fact. Let's go to the fact that he asked people to move on from hating him after launching an absolute Bible's worth of disingenuous assertions upon them. We could turn this into a "this is how you make enemies," because that is all this rant has been. You've stirred many pots today, Phil. And now you want people to move on? Adam had it right when he questioned whether or not Phil understood how the internet worked. Because today he has proved he does not.
It's all true. I was a piece of shit in the early Street Fighter community to a lot of people online. Only online. Offline, I was a nice guy, but online, I was a piece of garbage.
Justin, did you have any more dishonorable mentions?
I guess I would agree with you with DSP.
Yeah, my boy.
Because what DSP does, like, in person he's all nice to me and shit, but and then when he makes a YouTube video, he thinks he's all hard and crap.
Uh-huh.
I know it. And now I look back, and I fucking regret that so much. How awful I was to people who didn't deserve it, just because I was getting a laugh, and other people were laughing at my razzing other people and being a dick to other people. And I look back, I'm like, man, if only I'd been more positive in that time, things could have been so different. You know what I'm saying? And it just sucks that I wasn't. And now I feel like this is going to be a whole generation of people who are doing this on YouTube. And it's not just about me. It's about all these hate communities. Look at the communities against fucking Wings of Redemption and shit, right? Like, these people eventually are going to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, what the fuck did I do with my life? I wasted like 5-10 years of my life on this. And nothing happened for me. It benefited others who were basically people taking advantage of me because I'm stupid. But it didn't benefit. Phil's still here doing what he does, right? The detractor people running the channels and restreaming and shit, they made out with a ton of money and probably will one day cut and run, like most of them do. And you're the one left there with nothing, sitting there with an empty bag. Oh shit, what did I do for 10 years? I wasted all my time and I gave all my money to morons, right?
He fails to understand that there is no barrier of entry for becoming a detractor. You simply load up and bring yourself into the mix, and there's a lot of people around that will be willing to lend you a hand. I got really lucky with that, and I'm very grateful for everyone that lended me a hand in learning the basics of how to do this. You don't lose anything by being involved in the detractor community. You learn more, you see the documentation, you learn all the archiving that's going on, and you utilize it to the best of your ability. He's still here worrying about the money and where it's going. That has never left this conversation, which is insane to me. But what I want to go and do here is the idea of regret. I recently had a seat on an iVega stream, and I regret it because I made an ass of myself. I behaved poorly. I went in unprepared, and by proxy I could have made V look bad. And being the person that I am, that's not something I can be happy with. I had to learn through the week that I am not an island, and what I do can have an impact on people I like and care about. And I carried that regret with me to this very moment as I'm recording this. I'll probably continue to carry it with me. You know what regret is? And you know what it's gonna do for me? It's gonna make me plan better, make me decide how to best position myself to behave better. Let it teach me to be a better person. That is the purpose of regret. And one thing this guy doesn't understand is that emotions don't just exist in a vacuum. They don't exist to punish us in the moment, but to drive us to be better people, to change, to develop. That is the purpose of emotion, and you can't teach someone to understand that. That's a lesson learned through strife and suffering. The same way you can't understand that you cannot be happy if you don't know what it's like to be sad, because no one emotion exists isolated from its counterpart. This is how a child thinks, and it's so strange to see it coming from a grown man.
Again, case in point, look at side scrollers. How many months were they shitting on me constantly, making shows about me, entire streams, milking my detractors? What did they do with that money? Did they reinvest it into anything important? Or are they making now political content that you don't care about? Because you're stupid. You gave them money because you're dumb, and now they cut and ran with it, and they do what they want now, and it's your fault. You're the one who fell for the trap. The gullible people to be milked. You know, people need to stop being so goddamn gullible. In my case, I am providing you with content that if you like it, support it, and if you don't have to. I'm not creating a community of hate around someone that's a flash in the pan now because it's popular, and then I'll move on later. What I do is trying to be essentially someone making positive content for people who will get something out of it. No one gets anything out of shitting on Darkside Phil or Wings or anyone else. It's literally trash content for trash people. Stop being trash people. Those people that live in the garbage bags in the Like a Dragon series, they pop up, they're living trash bags. Do you want to be that forever? No.
Give me 2 options between DSP and Grover from Sesame Street, and I'll take Grover every day. He was a down-in-the-dumps type with a hard time looking towards the future with an egregious need to be cradled in his own sadness, whereas DSP is a gremlin style with an insatiable desire to share his self-loathing with the world and try and inflict his perverted worldview on any who are willing to listen. So big ups trash people, and big ups trash pandas. But god damn it! I did not want to talk about the side scrollers, but they just keep coming up. So let's do a quick rehash. 2 totally normal guys interviewed DSP, asked around for opinions and ideas and information on the guy, and then went into an interview prepared, as where I assumed DSP was expecting a fluff piece and came in unprepared, only for them to turn tractor in real time. You can see it on their faces as they turn. He came out of that interview thinking it went well, and was very happy with it, hoping for a permanent guest spot on their show, and when he realized they saw right through him, he started creating all these conspiracy theories about them. And now let's do the smart thing and follow the Occam's razor here. They interviewed DSP. They didn't like what they saw or heard. They decompressed on his stream and felt no remorse for venting their feelings. DSP got upset, and Craig fielded him, as best he could whilst being true to how they felt. And then they got greedy, and thought they could ride the detractors to the bank. Didn't work out. Now they're grifting on politics. No defense for them and no defense for DSP. Neither side won, and neither side looks good. But the interview is all we needed, and that's all we care about. So I don't see how what they're doing now has anything to do with what we're doing.
And Tigerholic says, the big problem for you is detractor content appears before your own channel just by searching DSP because of YouTube. Because of the YouTube algorithm and them allowing bullying content. They should be enforcing their terms of service and shutting it down, and they don't. Why? We've already talked about it, because I'm not in a protected class, so I'm not allowed to have the same protections as others, right? That's the problem. All right. I've said my piece. We got it out of the way. We just discussed it. As I said, I know discussion will probably pop up all over the internet now about this because I brought it up. But that's all I have to say about it. All right? I'm just going to move on now, and I'm just going to make my content and be positive and say whatever. And, you know, a million other fucking negative things. That's the thing. It doesn't matter. It's just like this person says. It doesn't matter what I do today. It doesn't matter if my gameplay is good or bad. It doesn't matter if I'm good or bad. It doesn't matter what happens in any of my content. They will literally still say the negative thing no matter what. It will never end. It will always be endless amounts of negative content because it benefits them. If it stopped benefiting them, if YouTube overnight said no more bullying content monetization, anything that's considered like bullying will not be monetized. These people would vanish from the internet tomorrow because these are not the Sons of Kojima. The Sons of Kojima did not monetize their content because they felt like they actually had a moral leg to stand on. In a lot of cases, in retrospect, I will admit they did. A lot of the things that they said about me were correct. I see that now because I'm older and more mature. And now some of the Sons of Kojima who basically were probably like, what the fuck? Phil is saying we were right? I'm not saying they were right about everything. They were pretty crazy in a lot of cases. But a lot of the things they said were valid criticisms. And if you haven't noticed, I have changed a lot since those days. I've really, really tried to change for the better. But that's the thing. The people today don't care. They're not here for improvement. They're here to ride a meme to make money from gullible people.
I could have just let this bit go, because he's right for the most part until he added that last bit. Detractors now don't expect any improvement from you, Phil. It's been 16 years, my guy. You promised your viewers a green screen. Where is it? You promised your viewers better audio quality, and instead you made it worse. You promised your viewers time and time again that your content would improve whilst dragging your feet. Why would any modern day detractor, veteran or otherwise, expect you to do anything to help yourself when you constantly do nothing but shoot yourself in the foot and blame your audience for it? Or blame us. We're all here to laugh at you, because at this point that's all you're worth. And no one needs to feel bad about that. You're going to continue shoveling your slop to the few piglets who are still willing to eat it, and we will continue standing alongside laughing. Aside from that, you summarized things well. The SOK were right, you were wrong, and you haven't changed. And that is also not going to change. After this part of the rant, he just went on to read super chats and tips. I'm sure there's some good stuff in there, but I just can't care. He's too exhausting for a video this long. I'll be adding timestamps to this and my old videos over the coming weeks, and I apologize I didn't do that sooner. As I said during the preamble, I have stuff coming up. I'll be in Las Vegas next week, so if I don't get my video done this week, there'll be nothing next weekend. I'm no longer an Atlas the Bookkeeper stream, so don't expect to see me there. And I wouldn't look forward to another appearance on Iviga's channel, unfortunately. So that's the update. Kind of a it'll be out when it's out kind of deal. As always, I appreciate all of you. Thanks for watching the videos and leaving comments. They really do mean the world to me. For those of you who reached the end of this one, I do have a little surprise. I have a pile of game codes that I want to give away. So I'll have a little screen scroll at the end of the next video with them on it, and they will be listed, but shh, only you guys that watched the whole thing will know. Wink wink, nudge nudge. Anyway, as always, you're appreciated, and don't let the bastards grind you down.
Because it's fucking funny!